I'm recording
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, there it said it. So I've started recording of this meeting, and today the theme of our session is stakeholder management, and I'll pass this over to Erica, our president, to talk more um, about the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shruti. Welcome everybody to 2022. I hope you're easing into the new year and excited about something new. I'm really excited about continuing our mission to empower every woman's voice at the table, setting goals for myself, setting goals for the club, and helping us all tackle 2022. We have a special session today to talk about club contests, which I'll get into in a little bit. But first, I want to welcome our guests, give them an opportunity to say hello, maybe how they found us, and get to know them a little bit more. So let's see. I'm going to start with Karen. Karen, would you like to say hello today?
Good morning and happy Sunday. I'm Karen Cornwell. I'm from Silicon Valley, and I ran into one of your members in another meeting, and I didn't know this group existed. I think I was in training. And so I said, oh, I have to come join this group. So here I am.
Thank you so much for joining us, Karen. And I
I'm a member in 2 other clubs and also president of one club. So I empathize, Erica, with your goal setting. Our club is doing exactly the same thing.
And Karen's a DTM and product manager and does all the wonderful things that we all love to do as well. So thanks for joining us, Karen.
Thanks for having me.
Let's see. We also have Nirmala. Am I saying your name right? Awesome. Would you like to say hello?
Hey everyone, thank you, Erica. My name is Nirmala Kumar and I'm from Seattle. I currently live in Seattle. I am a member of the Resonate Toastmasters Club, which is a digital club in the Seattle area. So even before the pandemic, we were digital. I am also the Division F director. And so I've been in Toastmasters for quite a while. Besides that, I'm a senior project manager at King County, currently working in the public sector, though I've been in the private sector all my life. This is a huge transition. So that's where I am. I found you, I think through Facebook, or was it through LinkedIn, through one of the social networking groups. And this is my first meeting. Look forward to being part of this meeting. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you found us. We're slowly finding all the PMs and Toastmasters, at least on the West Coast. I hope you enjoyed today. Let's see, I think I saw we had another guest, but everything moves around, so I might have lost it. Did I lose you? I think I did. Okay, well, and a big hearty welcome to Sina, who is joining us as a Toastmaster. We're happy to have you joining us. Everybody reach out, say hello to Sina, follow her on LinkedIn, connect, have a chat.
Nice to be here.
Welcome, Sina. Okay, so we have a club contest coming up, and it is super exciting for a number of reasons that I will share with you today. We have some really great prizes. We have a really great collaboration with Women in Product that continues to grow. That's going to make lots of fantastic opportunities for all of you for your careers. So we'll hop into it, and I'm going to share my screen if I still can. Shruti, can you let me share my screen? It'll be easier for me to show this document.
I made you the co-host right now, Erica. You should be able to show your screen.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Are you able to see speech contests? Because I actually remember. Okay, good. I've been having problems sharing. All right, speech contests. Speech contests are a very fun way for you to practice your skills, have a little competition with each other, learn, learn under stress. Hopefully it's not too stressful, so I don't like that word stress. I shouldn't have said that, but speech contests are held twice a year. And what happens is that it starts at the club level and then works up through the different levels of Toastmasters. So starts with club contests, and I'm right down here. Club contests then lead to area contests, which leads to division contests, and district international contests as well. So that is exciting. In addition, we have our very own, a special contest that we have for our dedicated Women in Product conference slot. So talked about a little bit about our collaboration with Women in Product. Part of that collaboration is they have allotted us a 20-minute speaking slot at the Women in Product conference. And in order to select and earn that spot, we use the club competition to pick our best to send off to the conference. So yeah, so that's just a little bit. So we're going to talk about just competitions in general and how Toastmasters handles their competitions. At the beginning of the season, they announce what types of speeches. So Toastmasters has 5 different types of competitions. There's the international speech, humorous, tall tales. I'm really dying to see a tall tales competition. I haven't seen that yet. Table topics and evaluation. So for this season, there's the international competition and the evaluation competition. International is a 5 to 7 minute speech on the topic of your choice. You use that same speech every level of the competition as the winner moves through. Evaluation is what we always do every meeting, is an oral evaluation. It's a new evaluation at every level of the competition. We invite somebody from outside of the club to come in, give a speech, and then we evaluate it. So those are the 2, international and evaluation. So a little bit of the contest rules for Toastmasters. There is a very large, well, not very, but there's a document that details all of the rules, which I linked here for you, the 21-22 document, if you'd like to go take a look. Each contest has its own rules, but in general, for eligibility, all competitions require you to be a paid member in good standing. And we're all that, we're all in good standing. The club is in good standing, all good to go there. There's an additional eligibility requirement for the international competition. And that is that the participant has completed 2 pathways levels. But don't fear, we have extra eligibility for our women in product competition. I skipped a little bit about that, so you're probably like, what does that have to do with each other? Give me a second to get to it. Okay, the Women in Product speech. So we use the international competition to also select the winner for the Women in Product speech. And I hope I haven't lost anybody yet, but it's a 5 to 7 minute speech, topic of your choice. So it's perfect for us to be able to use as a vehicle for that. Just to note that the length of the conference is 20 minutes. You're giving a 5 to 7 minute speech to the club. The conference is 20 minutes. So you can start with the great outline, the great succinct outline that you have for the international, and easily spread that out into 20 minutes for the conference. And we encourage you to practice with us and give it a couple times. So nothing to worry about there. Let's see. Okay. So we have the international speech competition, and we basically have 2 sets of participants, those that fit the international speech criteria for Toastmasters, those that fit our criteria for the Women in Product Conference. Our criteria for the Women in Product Conference is that you have given an icebreaker. That's our only criteria, is that you've given an icebreaker. and then you can compete. And I've skipped around, and I'm sorry about that. My mouth got ahead of me. So I kind of have a little infographic here, so I hope that helps explain it. You can participate in the international speech contest, and either you're eligible for the international to win it and to go on in Toastmasters, or you're eligible for the Women in Product speaker slot, and you can go on in there. Nobody that wins is required to do anything more than just participate in the contest. In that case, we would select the next person to represent us and the next eligible person to represent us in either one of those endeavors. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I hope this is making sense. Okay, eligibility requirements. I have the icebreaker. We do require you to declare that you intend to compete. Your speech needs to be prepared for what you're going to submit at the conference. So, Women in Products, they have themes that we need to make sure that we meet those themes. And once we know what those are, we'll share them with you. But we've promised that we'll have an evaluation process. So we asked you guys to submit your themes, submit your information on your speech that you want to present. Lori is our resident expert. She helped at the Women in Product conference last year, was on the conference committee, knows what they're looking for. We're in communication with Women in Product. They're going to share their themes. So we just want to make sure that that you are also, meshing in with the conference, so to speak. Yes. So we do have a little bit of a formal process where we ask you to let us know about your speech, and then we'll let you know, give you feedback on if it fits in or not. A survey went out asking if you're interested in participating. Please let us know. Give us as much information as you can, and hopefully this timeline works out. We'll adjust if we need, but if you can respond to that survey by January 23rd and give us all your information, that gives us a couple of days to review things, send them back to you by the 30th, which would give you 2 weeks if you need to adjust anything in your speeches. Yeah, okay, so that was a really quick run through, and I hope Siri just started for some reason. Hopefully you're still hearing me and Siri didn't interrupt. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, that was a lot of stuff, and not sure how we're doing on time. If Lori, do you want to wait for questions at the end of the meeting or take any now?
I think we should wait till the end so we make sure we got time for all the good topics we got today. Okay, great. I tried to go quick and I totally lost track of time, but please participate in club contests. They'll be super fun, either as a contestant or please sign up as a volunteer, because we really need volunteers to make this such a success. And I'm going to be quiet and hand it over to Lori. And thank you all.
Well, thank you, Erica, and welcome fellow Toastmasters and guests. As a precursor, before we get started today, you might hear some noise in the background. I told some of you earlier that I'm getting a new basement because my husband is a construction worker and we were quarantined this week. So he was bored and had no symptoms and tore my basement apart. So you might hear some of that in the background today, but we have an awesome lineup. So before we jump into all the great content, I want to get you guys ready. Who's ready? All right, by show of hands, I'd like to see how many of you have somebody at work that you just love working with. When the project comes up, you just get excited and you're ready to jump in. Who's got one of those people at work that they just love it when they get to work with them? Not everyone? Come on, there's gotta be somebody you enjoy. All right, that looks better. So you get that feeling of excitement, you're smiling, You know you're just going to crush that project out of the park. Nothing can stop you. In contrast, let me see again by a show of hands, how many of you have somebody at work that you just dread working with? Yep. Oh, yep. Everybody, that hand went up faster actually than the first one. So that's good to know. Today's topic is going to be perfect then. I personally know that I've had both instances at every job I have ever had. That second person just drains your energy. Sometimes you might even be scared of them. You just instantly get defensive and they suck the life right out of you. But knowing that you always have both of these types of people that you're working with, you know that it's never going to change, right? I've been in my career long enough now and I'm like, oh, I'm at a new place. I still have these people. Now I kind of look for them, right? When I first started, I'm like, all right, who's going to be the person on my team? Who's going to be the difficult one? And as soon as you spot them, what do you have to do? You have to figure out a way to actually champion the situation, right? So I'm not going to give away all the spoilers that we have today, but we're going to have some awesome content with great pro tips. I just know it. So before we get into that, I'm going to leave you with a pro tip of my own. And that tip is the person you despise the most and you usually have the most trouble with, 9 times out of 10, it's usually the person I know the least about. And once I get to know them more personally, it usually turns out that we are also the most alike. Therefore, if you have that difficult stakeholder at work today, I'm going to challenge everybody in this room to grab a 15-minute coffee chat with them and talk to them about something other than work. Get to know them a little bit more and seek first to understand where they're coming from or what they're being held accountable for at work. It might just change your complete perspective about working with that person and have an opportunity to be more relatable to them. So as I mentioned, we have a jam-packed agenda today, I'm sure with other great pro tips from our 2 club speakers, and we're going to have our impromptu speaking section called Table Topics. After that, all of you with roles will be giving us some feedback and evaluating us. So let's get started. Let's jump in. All right, so the agenda, I'll post it again in the chat. I think it was already posted, but as we all know how Zoom works, if you joined even a second too late, it's not there anymore. So you can find the agenda in the chat. It's also in the meeting invite. And since we got guests, we're also going to go through each one of these roles that's listed on that agenda. So I am actually going to turn it over to our general evaluator, Ashley. And Ashley is going to let each of her individual teammates introduce themselves and what roles they'll be doing today. So Ashley, you want to come on up and take the stage?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for the very brief intro. Appreciate that. Also, hello, everyone else. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So today, my name is Ashley Lawson, and I am going to be your general evaluator throughout this meeting. And the purpose of the general evaluator is to evaluate everything that takes place throughout the meeting. During the meeting, I will take notes on everything that happens and doesn't happen. I will evaluate each participant on the meeting program and look for good examples of preparation, organization, delivery, enthusiasm, observation, and performance of duties. And at the end of the meeting, I will give you all my report. In addition to that, I do have some lovely ladies helping me out as well as we go through this meeting for today. So for the evaluators, we do have 2 speeches. I also have Marguerite and Monique who are going to help evaluate the speakers for today. And I would like to introduce a few others who are on the team for today. Manal, would you mind coming up and explaining your role today?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Hello, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am your owl counter for the day, and the purpose of the owl counter is to note words and sounds that are used as crutch or pause fillers by anyone who speaks during the meeting. I will listen for overused words, including and, well, but, so, and you know. I will also listen for filler sounds, including and I will also note when a speaker repeats a word or phrase like I, or this means, this means. At the end of the meeting, I'll report the number of times that each speaker used these expressions. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Back to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Manal, who is our counter for today. Following that, we also do have our timer. And Svetlana, if you wouldn't mind for a moment sharing with everyone the role of the timer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ashley, Madam General Evaluator and fellow Toastmasters. So as timer, I will time the table topics speakers, the formal speeches, and the evaluations. And I will be alerting each speaker of the time that they have left using the green, yellow, and red screens. They will denote the specific times remaining. So for table topics, everyone will have 2 minutes to respond. So they will see a green screen at 1 minute, yellow screen at 1.5 minutes, red screen at 2. For our standard speeches, those will run for 5 to 7 minutes. So at 5, you'll see the green, at 6, the yellow, at 7, the red. And we have extended our evaluation speeches to be 3.5 minutes. And so at 2.5 minutes, you will see the green screen. At 3 minutes, you will see the yellow. And at 3.5 minutes, you'll see the red. I will note time and give a report at the end of our session. Thank you so much. Back to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Svetlana. She's going to be doing a brilliant job as our timer today. And last but certainly not least, we have one of our teammates who's actually on double duty today. She is going to be covering as our table topics master and our vote counter. Jennifer, would you mind coming up and telling folks here what your roles are for today?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction there, General Evaluator. And welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests as well. So the goal of a table topics session is to challenge us to improve our impromptu speaking skills. We never know when we're going to be asked a question, and it's just an impromptu way for us to improve over time on how we answer certain questions. So a couple of things. One is the speaker who I select will be provided 1 to 2 minutes to respond to the question. I'll ask the question and then select an individual to answer. Members within the club are not able to opt out. However, if you are a guest, you are also fair game unless you choose to not participate. If you choose not to participate, please direct message me via Zoom ahead of time, and I will make sure you are not on that list. But it's a really great way for folks to be able to just learn how to answer things on the fly. The other thing that we do in our club that's unique is we also select a table topics winner. So I would ask that all of the participants here today, upon hearing all of the table topics questions, please submit your vote directly to me. I will also list out who all the folks that I called out on at the end, and then I'll tally those up and announce our winner towards the end of the meeting. All right, back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jen. That concludes all of the roles that we have going on for today. I'm going to turn this back over to our Toastmaster.
I forgot I was the Toastmaster for a second. Look at that. All right. Well, the next thing that we have is our Grammarian. Our Grammarian today is my friend, Amy Kirkland. So Amy, you want to come up and tell us about your role and what the word of the day is?
Yes, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As Grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of improper language as well as outstanding words, quotes, sayings, or thoughts. As Grammarian, it is also my duty to introduce the word of the day. For today's meeting, the word is supposition, which means an uncertain belief. An example of using this word is the product manager needs to collect more data to prove her supposition. Or another use is, without any data, the stakeholder's supposition that their feature suggestion to solve a customer's problem could not be proven. Each speaker is encouraged to use the word of the day. I will give the grammarian's report when called upon during the meeting and also report on the usage of the word of the day. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I've never honestly heard that word before, so I'm learning something new today already. All right, our first speaker today is the one and only Sarah Gangan. Sarah has been in product management for over 10 years, and her teams are building and scaling a CRM platform that serves 1.7 million residents and 14,000 internal customers. Wow, that's more than I've ever actually worked on in my entire career, so that's mind-blowing. All right, Sarah, come up to the stage and take it away.
The term stakeholder management, it brings to mind a number of topics. To name a few, expectations management, political alignment, and any of the suppositions that are involved with that, risk tolerance. But what about communication style? And how does that fit with stakeholder management? Or does it? Madame Toastmaster, fellow women in product Toastmasters, and honored guests. Imagine yourself sitting down at a posh restaurant for a delicious meal. Maybe it's a bit heavy on the carbohydrates. Maybe it includes deep fried comfort food. Maybe it includes a luscious, warm chocolate lava cake with powdered sugar on the top. When the waitstaff delivers your meal, you're perplexed. Instead of those comforting carbohydrates, it's broccoli. Instead of those deep fried onion rings with sweet and sour sauce, it's tofu. And instead of that luscious chocolate cake, it's fruit compote topped with soy nuts. So how did your order get so misaligned? In addition to that, the waitstaff sees your misery and rebuffs, I know that you ordered such and such and that, but I believe this is what you really need. Imagine my surprise, ladies, when I took the communication style assessment that was part of this product or project management or project assignment. And I realized that I may have been that waitstaff, perhaps not taking my stakeholders' desires into account, but perhaps giving them instead what I thought they really needed. So by a show of hands, how many of us can relate to this story? Yes. So this year's Women in Product Conference theme is Restore and Rediscovery, recognizing our inner strengths and the resources within us, as well as those within our Women in Product community. In light of this, I reflected on my career in technology and my communication styles. And I fully believe that my communication style has actually changed with my roles. For example, as a business analyst, I was known for my analytical style, which makes sense because day after day, I was pouring through facts and figures. And when I interacted with my stakeholders, I was certain to drown them with data. A few years later, I found myself as a UX, UI research analyst, which I chose in order to work more closely with our customers, conducting user interviews, contextual inquiries, A/B testing, card sorting, user validation. Now, this required a supportive style. which also showed patience, sympathy, and active listening with my customers. I enjoyed conducting this research, and I wanted my stakeholders to learn to walk a mile in our customers' shoes. So I fed them empathy maps, customer journeys, and user anecdotes. Most stakeholders, they wanted brevity and just an understanding of the bottom line. Speed up a few more years, and I purposely moved then into a product owner role in order to expand my technical knowledge. So in that capacity, I developed an initiating style, and that worked really well across cross-functional teams. Along with developing my understanding of APIs and how multi-factoring authentication works and the Internet of Things, it was important for me to be sociable, enthusiastic, yet persuasive. Now, the stakeholders that I was working with at the time, they were from the construction industry, and they did not share in my delight of opening every meeting with 3 minutes of small talk on the best restaurants in the area. Speed up now a few more years. And currently, as a principal product manager, my stakeholders are C-suite and senior leaders. So my communication style has changed into more direct. This means more results-oriented, decisive, and focused. It doesn't mean that I've forsaken what I've learned from the past. It means that I have to tune in more to what I see and what I hear and adapt quickly. My stakeholder interactions now are short, on point, sometimes not very relaxed, and they focus on KPIs. A day prior to my stakeholder meeting, I provide an executive summary so that everyone in attendance will have a contextual understanding of the issues at hand. And I minimize PowerPoint to about 3 to 5 bullet points. In many ways, my communication style has evolved as much as I have as a product professional. And the term stakeholder management, yes, it should definitely include an analysis of not only our stakeholder style, but also a communication strategy if we want to serve up nothing but the best. Madam Toastmaster.
Great job, Sarah. All right, we do something fun in this club. We actually give you all 2 minutes and 30 seconds to ask some questions. So if anybody has a question for Sarah, go ahead and come off mute or raise your hand and fire away at her.
Hey, Sarah, this is Jennifer. I have a quick question for you. I love how you identified that you need to know your audience and how your communication style has evolved over time. I'm curious, when you're trying to make that transition of being able to communicate out to your C-suite, what were some of the most challenging things that you found yourself having to overcome?
That's a great question, Jennifer, and thank you for that. I think there were probably threefold reasons, challenges to overcome. Number one, not having, especially in this pandemic type of environment, not having the ability to walk down the hall and get to know that person on an individual basis. So in light of that, I try to reach out to people who worked directly under these C-suite folks before they actually had moved into those respective roles to find out what they really cared about, what mattered most to them, what is it that is in the forefront or keeps them up at night. It would be probably best to speak to them about that, but again, I don't have the privilege of time. The second thing that would be more challenging is we are creatures of habit. I know I am, and I would have a tendency of falling back on things, on my communication styles that I've used in the past because they are so ingrained in me, and to realize that it may not be the best style for that particular person. for that particular stakeholder. I think the third part of that as well is the fact of the written communication style is also another factor to that. And when I started working with the C-suite, it mostly was oral communication. Then the written communication came into that. I had to make certain that what I said was also well written in a way that it didn't counter anything that I said, and also that the written was presented in a way that could also be consumable, because a lot of these C-suite folks do not have the time to listen to me, nor to really take a lot of time to read. So that also changed the way I write, in a sense that, as I mentioned, the executive summary the day prior, also the bullet points, and to include an infographic towards the end of the report. So those that want to dig into the information will have that, because not everyone will read the information the same way, and some may want more data. So that's a great question. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you so much for those tips. I'll help us all. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, we are at time. Great job, Sarah. Moving on to our second speaker today is going to be Richu. So although not everything can be fit into a framework, Richu considers everyone and herself stakeholders of at least one mutually agreeable outcome. While stakeholders at work might be key to professional outcomes, Toastmasters Club is to personal outcomes. With that, her talk today will require each of you to step into different scenarios as product managers. Think fast on your feet and respond either on your mic or in the chat box. So I hope everyone's ready to have some fun and be interactive. I forgot to do this with Sarah, so I'm going to do it for Richu. Her Pathways project is leadership development. Her project is connecting with your audience, and her speech title is Convince, Compromise, and Compel. What would you do? Again, her speech title is Convince, Compromise, or Compel. What would you do? Richu, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Toastmasters. So since it's an interactive segment today, get your mics ready to unmute yourself and speak. And since I'll be only calling upon a few folks, the rest of you can use the chat box to respond. I'd love to make this interactive, so please step in. Today, you're going on a journey of managing different stakeholders internal to the company. And I'm going to take you through 3 different scenarios. You are the product manager and have to tell us, what would you do? Since we are bound by time, your response can only be in these 3 options: convince, compromise, or compel. Convince is you want the stakeholder to see you as likable, see the project as necessary, so you want them on your side. Compromise is you're effectively offering something in exchange for their support. So it's your ability to trade. Third, compel is stakeholders might have a power play. They may use their influence to control decisions and resources, etc. In this case, you're compelling your stakeholder to choose a different path. So convince, compromise, or compel. All right, so here's it. The company you work for is an IoT smart devices company with a portfolio of products for B2B. In this company, you are the lead product manager working on a new B2C project in the wearable devices category. You're driving both the strategy and the product vision. There's a significant investment being made across the company to facilitate this new segment. Your goal is targeting newer customer verticals to acquire market share in the wearable tech space. All right. Scenario 1. You worked on a product requirements document, a PRD. You've defined all the features that this wearable device should support for version 1. You're in the early phase meetings with engineering managers. Some of the managers believe these are too many features requested for the timeline you've defined. but you believe there might be some features that you can drop off the list. But you're also trying to manage these stakeholders. In these meetings, in the early meetings, especially with engineering team, should you try to compel or convince harder to have your entire list of features completed? Or should you accommodate their pushback and compromise before even the development has started? So what would you do? And I'm going to call on Sarah. Convince, compromise, or compel?
I'm going to say compromise.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Scenario 2, I'm so sorry, it's short of time. We'll come back to that. So Sarah said compromise. I'm going to go to scenario 2. After 10 months of engineering and QA effort to get this hardware and software for the wearable device ready to launch, you turn to marketing team to only find out that their strategy to generate demand is based on a TikTok virality video or Instagram-based celebrity paid ads. And you believe none of these methods will truly demonstrate how your wearable is unique and why should buyers care. So you document the differentiated value to the customer. And with this information doc, you are now considering to either convince, compel, or compromise with the marketing leader. So you're meeting this person one-on-one. This person is the stakeholder, but the marketing leader believes that their team knows best since they've been successful in the past. What would you do? Jennifer.
I would probably go through a convincing exercise.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Scenario 3. The product launched in 2020. We are now in 2022. It's only grossed about 40% of the revenue goals for the year. The PM leader, the VP of product, is losing trust in the product and wants to end the life of the product. But you as the PM believe with just some set of specific modifications and launching version 2, you might be at the cusp of going big. You want to disagree with the PM leader, who is the stakeholder here, and tell them that version 2 will be a success. Do you convince, compromise, or compel the PM leader? I'm going to call Karen.
I think I would definitely compel in this case.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, I'm hoping that some of you have also typed in some responses in the chat box. I don't get to see it right away, but as you can tell, there are going to be different scenarios, and some of you might have come up with different answers and different thought process around how you would manage these stakeholders. It's not always a framework-based effort. And I have been in all of these 3 scenarios and several more. Every time I've had to rely on my own personal framework to managing and delighting some of my stakeholders. And I follow these 3 objectives. I think Sarah touched upon it really effectively here. It's communication. It's communication in a specific frequency. You define that very early on. Written documents, expectation definitions, and also including a feedback loop. So it's not a one-way communication. The second one that I rely on is data-driven decisions. So I lead and I encourage that data and metric-based decisions are made by all stakeholders, all the way from the C-suite to the folks who are working on the product day-to-day. Third one is identifying incentives and personalities. So understanding what incentivizes a certain specific stakeholder, and also identifying what their personality is like and how would you be able to manage, what kind of tools from your toolkit can you bring to the table to manage that stakeholder. So for powerful stakeholders, it's key that you find a way to collaborate or consult, but with other stakeholders who are interest-based or who are working on the product, you could turn to informing or assigning. So these are three key objectives that I follow, and I wanted to leave you with these three. So hopefully that was enjoyable. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmasters.
Thank you, Richu. That was a fun speech. That was a fun interactive, loved it. So Svetlana is going to put another 2.5 minutes on the timer for us. So if anybody has a question, let's have it. Feel free to raise your hand or come off mute and ask your question.
I have a question. This is Sirisha. Richu, I mean, theoretically, when you are giving those scenarios, I feel like, okay, this is definitely a compel. I would compel, but sometimes, at least in my domain, what I am seeing is my hands are tied, or there is like power play at place. And so if I compel to an extent, then I'm into like this bad books, or I've been escalated just because I'm speaking against a powerful stakeholder, right? So what would you suggest? How do I compel in such a way that it's conveyed in a right way, or in more convincing way?
Yeah. So a few things that I personally follow are completely data driven. So I work on collating enough information, and sometimes metrics that are not even obvious to you, right? Some of the other metrics that I focus on, besides the obvious ones of how many bugs there are, or what's the NPS score for a certain product or feature, I take a survey within the engineering team to get a feel for how interested are they working on this product. And let's say the scenario number 3, where it was working with the VP to end the life of a product. I disagreed, but I still committed. I disagreed that the life of the product had to end, and it was my product, and I was also tasked of ending the life of the product. So in a scenario like that, it was all about really collating information which was not obvious, which was not only about revenue, which was not only about how many customers do we have actively. It was also about what other strategies does this product tie into. And I don't work for a wearable device company, I'm networking. So my product really had to tie into the larger vision or the larger strategy of the company. And if it did, then there was a data-based path to talking about how it can be encompassed in the strategy and potentially add revenue at some point. But what is that point? How do you define it? How do you get there? What kind of resources does it take to get there? So it's really about putting down those detailed information on paper before you start interacting with a leader or with anybody else to drive that decision. And there are going to be disagreements, like I just said, but at that time, it's really about, it's your personality. That's when you get to shine, is you can disagree, but you can still commit and move forward, right? So there are scenarios, there are multiple scenarios, I would say. Database decision communication and really understanding incentives is key. And besides that is bringing out your personality and modifying or finding a way to work together.
Thank you. Great answer, Richu. I enjoyed your speech.
Awesome. All right. That concludes our time for questions as well. So that also ends our speaker, or what do we call those? Structured speeches? I don't know what we call them. We took a 2-week break and now I forgot everything that we do here. Anyways, our prepared speeches, that's what they're called. Prepared speeches are over. We're going to move on to our table topic section, which is an impromptu section. And our table topics master today is the one and only Jennifer. So Jennifer,
Hey.
I'm just going to pass it over to you and you can take it away.
Yeah, okay, great. So just as a reminder for folks, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to read out a question. I'll select a participant to answer. And then I would like for our timer to be pinned as well. And they will be given 1 to 2 minutes to respond. Okay. I also would ask for folks, keep in mind, I'm also the vote counter as well. All right. So our first question for today is, when you're starting a new initiative or a new project that's never been done before, how do you identify your most critical stakeholders? And for that question, I'd like to ask Sirisha, if you could please answer.
So for a critical project, how do I identify stakeholders, correct?
When you're starting a new initiative or a new project, how do you go about identifying your most critical stakeholders?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. So I would give an example that I'm recently working, which is a brand new project, and it's also talks about, or it's about Internet of Things, and we are starting this new initiative. One thing I would look for is, since it's a new thing we have not done before, so I would look for a stakeholder who's aware of the nuances of this new product. Sometimes you may find some people who are like, have done similar projects, or sometimes you may not find anyone. But so what I would see is like, how they can help me guide through those initial stages where, defining the product, what assumptions and dependencies we can run into. And also I look for, at least one or two people who are able to think through, or like, have a forward thinking on technical aspect of the implementation as well. So these are the two things that I look for. And sometimes if I don't find anyone, then I will I'll just reach out to my leadership and identify some stakeholders who can help me guide through the product implementation.
Thank you for that answer, Sirisha. All right, the second question. Have you encountered a difficult stakeholder and how did you manage them? So for this question, I'd like to ask Sina. If you could, we can spotlight Sina.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for the topic, Miss Table Topics Master. So the question is, have I encountered any difficult stakeholder and how did I handle it? So I have, so one of the things that I've done that has helped me is coming back to the same communication thing. So what I have figured out is it's usually prior experiences that makes a person go like sideways. So one thing I have done is like set up some cadence to know them, and then also have some cadence of meetings with them to understand what they are thinking and what we are thinking, and make sure that the roadmap is clarified. So that has helped me in my relationship building with that stakeholder. And eventually we come to pass where we can discuss about initiatives that can be put on the roadmap.
All right, thank you for that answer, Sina. And I'm going to go through one more or two more. I think we have enough time for two more. So the third question here is, gaining the trust of your stakeholders can be very, very difficult. What is one technique that you've used to gain the trust of a new stakeholder that you've never worked with previously? And for that, I'd like to ask Sri May to answer it. Can we spotlight Sri May? And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
No,
Okay.
you did it fine.
Awesome.
Thanks for the question, Jennifer. Just to confirm, the question is, how do you, I'm sorry, can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, so gaining the trust
How
of
do
your
you,
stakeholders can be really, really difficult. So what's one technique that you've used to gain the trust of a new stakeholder that you have maybe never worked with previously?
Thank you for clarifying that question. So absolutely, gaining trust in any relationship with any stakeholder is very critical and very important for the success of the project. One way I have managed in the past with respect of gaining trust is to establish a good communication routine. So even in leadership principles, they overemphasize, I mean, they can never overemphasize when they say communicate, and over communicate. So it's the lack of communication that often gets lost in translation. So it's important, according to me, to communicate and even over communicate, like tell it in 7 different ways, to make sure they're kept in the know and they know even if you're not able to deliver something, you just need to let the set the expectations right and communicate that regularly to the stakeholders. And I think that will help build the relationship and gain that confidence.
Love the answer. Thank you so much. And last but not least, I'm gonna ask one last question here. And as a product manager, some stakeholders need to be engaged more or less at various stages of product development. What is a critical stakeholder that you might engage early in that ideation phase? And for this, I'd like to ask Karen if you might try and give it a shot. Karen Cornwell.
Thank you. What was the question again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
no problem, no problem. As a product manager, some stakeholders need to be engaged more or less at various stages of that product development life cycle. What is a critical stakeholder that you would always engage very early during that ideation phase?
I think you really have to identify 3 or 4 champions as your stakeholders, and those are the ones you need to keep up at the very beginning as you move forward through the ideation phase, because what you don't want to miss is critical requirements that you're not aware of. And some of those requirements may be as ridiculous as, oh, Bill needs to name it. Well, how does Bill get to name it, right? No, sometimes we don't get to answer those questions. So, and sometimes those requirements are not anything you could possibly guess. And so if you can ferret some of those out at the very beginning, and you can win those stakeholders over, you can also use those stakeholders to convince other stakeholders, which I have found to be an extremely powerful strategy. Because sometimes as a product manager, you might not have the clout to get people to believe you. And if you get one stakeholder, they will easily convince another stakeholder that you know, all right, just let them run for a while and then we'll see how it goes. And so I've been very successful in using stakeholders to secure stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your answer. I will be now dropping in the names of the people that spoke and participated in our table topics. And if you could please just remember to direct message me with your vote, and I'll tally that up and announce the winner later on in this meeting. Thank you. And back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was a fun table topics round. I was taking notes during it because you all had some great answers for things that I need to try. All right, so that concludes our impromptu section of today's meeting. We are now going to transition into our evaluations. So with that, I'm going to have Ashley come back up to the stage as our general evaluator, and her and our team are going to let us know how we did today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. We can go ahead and hear some feedback on everything that has happened thus far in our meeting. Let me go ahead and, if we can, go ahead and pin Marguerite and our first speaker of today, Sarah, to get some feedback.
Sure. So Sarah, it was a great speech. It was really easy to follow. I think as a lot of your other speeches have been. There were some great tips in there about, especially I wrote down about communicating with the C-suite, sending agendas ahead of time. I found that really useful. I've been thinking about articulation a lot, and so I really wanted to shout out your articulation because it's so great when you speak. So really easy to follow, well-organized speech. And I love the metaphor about the waiter making a supposition about what you should have. It definitely triggered some memories about my experiences professionally and personally. So I think everyone can relate to that, and that was really vivid metaphor. You did in your evaluation, I know you were looking for feedback about hand gestures. I thought, your hand gestures are really like good, not too, distracting, and punctuated your speech well, the content well. The only one that I think was a little distracting for me was the walking gesture. So I might get some other feedback, suggest getting feedback from other folks about that one as well, to see if it was distracting for them. But otherwise, it showed like a great energy, and your facial expressions as well, punctuated your content well, and yeah, showed kept me engaged with your speech. And in general, your energy, I think, was really good and well paced throughout the speech, including at the end. So I think you definitely pulled that off in terms of keeping it up, keeping the energy level up at the end of the speech. One thing I was confused about during the speech was you made a connection to the theme of the meeting, but also the theme of I think the Women in Product Conference, the Restore and Rediscovery. And so I was a bit confused about that, like how those two things related or if they did. But otherwise, I thought it was a great speech, informative, well-paced, and I was interested and engaged the entire time. Thank you.
Thanks, Marguerite.
Fantastic. Thank you, ladies, Marguerite and Sarah, for getting that feedback out. Marguerite, thank you for getting the feedback over to Sarah. We are going to go ahead and keep moving here. So could Monique be pinned along with Richu as well, and the timer too, please?
All right, Richu. Let's see. Nice to see you, everyone. All right. Well, thank you, Richu, so much. That was such a fun and interactive speech. You immediately drew us in and piqued our curiosity, asking, what would you do? We knew that we needed to pay attention. We were going to learn something fun, and we were going to be in this kind of choose your own adventure speech. So one thing that I loved what you did was you explained how we would be involved and what you were expecting of us. And then I thought it was great that you defined exactly what convince, compromise, and compel. That was super helpful, just so we were all on the same page as far as how you were defining these different choices that we make. And then, like, you provided the setup of where this product manager for this wearable technology, and then started diving into the actual. So I thought everything flowed really well, and then just knowing that these are real experiences that you had in your own career helped us learn more about you, just better understand and see kind of what we're going through here. And so then kind of you summarized and gave us help, these tips, repeating how important communication, data-driven decisions, and identifying incentives were. So wonderful speech. Things you might consider. So I guess I might have missed this, but I think what I expected was that we'd have to write something in chat, or you would ask to unmute yourselves, and you end up calling on people for an answer. And so maybe just giving a little bit of heads up. I think everyone was able to respond, but just that might have been unexpected for people if they had missed that. But I feel like you handled it really well as far as making sure like only one word, don't explain sentences about where you are there. So I thought that was great. So like, once again, I thought the organization was wonderful. You were super comfortable with the topic and you had high energy to keep us engaged. And I would say this feels like a great contender for the speech contest, because I just felt like there could have been more. Like I would have loved more time to dive into the scenarios and then just how you handled it. So I'm volunteering you for to go further with this. So thank you so much, Ritu.
Thank you so much, Muni. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for that evaluation. All right, up next, we have a report from our grammarian, Amy.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. So we had a couple uses of the word of the day, supposition. Sarah used it right off the bat. I think Ray used it too, but I forgot to be listening, and all of a sudden I thought I heard it, and so I'm not sure if she did or not, so apologies. And then Marguerite also used it during her evaluation, and if I missed anyone else, I'm sorry. A couple of phrases that I thought were really great when Sarah used drown them with data, and also had a little rain gesture to go with that. I thought that was really great. She also said learn to walk a mile in their shoes. And then Ritu, this was actually during her answer to the question, she said, you can still disagree, commit, and move forward. And that's all I got. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Amy, for the grammarian report. Up next, we have Manal, who is going to give us a report as the counter.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Again, I'm not counting myself in these counters, otherwise, of course, I would have a lot. But to start off with, Erica had 4 uhs, 10 plus ums, 3 so's, and 1 you know. Lori had 5 uhs, 4 so's, and 1 like. Sarah had 1 1 and 2 so's. Richu had 2 ums, 2 so, 1 but, 1 repeat. It was in A. Ashley had 2 uhs, 2 ums, and 1 so. Marguerite had 7 uhs and 3 ums and 1 you know. Monique had 2 uhs, 5 ums, 3 so's, and 1 but. Amy had 5 ums and 1 so. Svetlana had 1 and 1 so. And last but not least, Jennifer had 1 2 so's, and 1 you know. Thank you, and back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Fantastic. Thank you, Manal, for that very thorough report. I think we're all a little nervous now hearing that report, but it is very welcome because that's one of the things we come here to work on during our meetings every other week. All right, Svetlana, I would love to bring you up so we can all hear how we did in terms of time today.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. So just as a reminder again, for our timed speeches, when we have actually 2 varieties of how we track time. One was the screen cards that I was using today. The other is a timer that actually you see the time running down. For technical reasons, I had to use the cards, but that is actually also the realer way, because in person, you would only see someone holding up a card from the audience, which is super scary. So my report. For the prepared speeches, Sarah, you were within time. So your speech had to be between 5 and 7 minutes. You landed at 6 minutes and 19 seconds. Richu, great job. Richu, you were a little over time. So you landed at 7 minutes and 27 seconds.
Not quite over time.
Not quite over time?
No, you get a 30-second grace period. So she would have been 3 seconds in the contest.
All right.
So
Excellent.
she just under the wire, barely.
Excellent, excellent. I don't know if we've accounted for grace periods in the past, but good to know. Learn something new every time. So just to keep in a logical order, our evaluations for the prepared speeches were extended this time to 3.5 minutes. So at 2.5 minutes, you saw the green, so on. Both of you were within time. Marguerite, you landed right at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And Monique, you landed at 2 minutes and 56 seconds. And then finally, the table topics. So each of you had 2 minutes to deliver your response. And Sirisha, you landed within time at 1 minute and 20 seconds. Sina, almost there. I don't know if there's a grace period for going for falling below the minimum time, but you landed at 46 seconds. Karen, let us know.
No, you have to talk for a minute.
Okay, great.
For a table, you have to see that green. Don't stop till you see the green. That's the key.
Right. Gotta add some fluff if you don't have content and substance. Shramaya, you landed at 1 minute and 10 seconds, and Karen, you landed at 1 minute and 20 seconds, like the expert that you are. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Back to you.
Thank you for the timer report, Svetlana. We greatly appreciate that. And we also learned something new here today as well. With that, I'm going to go ahead and just give my overall general report here for everyone throughout the meeting. Today we did start on time, and we did have a little bit of technical hiccups this morning. I will admit I'm very guilty of this myself. I rarely check for Zoom updates, so I will be doing that after this call and making sure it's up to date and current. Aside from that, in terms of the meeting opening, we did really well there, and I do want to apologize to Amy. She is also very much a part of this eval team, and I totally overlooked her. However, our Toastmaster for today did me a solid and totally brought Amy back up so she could go ahead and deliver the word of the day for us. And also our Toastmaster here, I do want to give her a big shout out. I know she hasn't been feeling well and is recovering, and she came in here and did an amazing job as our Toastmaster and juggled having different people come on and off the agenda for today. And also big shout out to Jennifer too, who's doing double duties today and covering 2 roles. Aside from that, I thought everyone did a great job with delivering evaluations and reports as well with the entire group. The table topics were on point in terms of the subject matter that we were talking to today of stakeholder management, and also to our participants who responded to those. Thank you very much. Those were very thoughtful responses to today's table topics. That is all I have in my notes for today. I do want to take one more minute here and say thank you all for being here. This is the first meeting of the year, and I know we're all working through those kinks, and we'll do it together. And I look forward to seeing you guys again here soon. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to our esteemed Toastmaster for today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. That was a perfect evaluation for today. All right, we are making great time. So with that, I'm going to pass it just straight over to Jennifer so she can tell us who won today's table topics.
Yeah, so I first and foremost want to thank all of our speech participants. It's always somewhat nerve-wracking being put on the spot like that. Each and every one of you provided really great answers. Our winner for today was Karen, our guest. So impressive, so many votes. Thank you so much for your thoughtful answer in relation to this product manager question. So congratulations, Karen, you are our winner.
Awesome. Great job. And thank you for
Hey,
joining us today.
thank you. I actually, I think I cheated. You see, I teach how customer organizations make decisions, and there's an awful lot of stakeholder analysis that goes on. So I think I had an unfair advantage.
I don't know if that's called cheating or just helping to share information and helping to grow all of us. That's what I think of that.
I am always happy to share with my product management friends.
Well, you have made us richer for today. Thank you. And back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jennifer. Erica did drop off, but I guess we'll also take a quick second to hear from our guests, and if you all have any feedback from us or words of wisdom that you also want to share, because we have some experts in the house today. Kieran, if you have any additional feedback about the club, feel free to provide it. And let's see, I lost everyone. Where'd they go? We also have a couple other guests. So if you want to, anyone has any feedback.
Do you meet?
Great question. We meet every other Sunday.
It's every other, and this is the first one. Okay, because you have to, you have to know which one starts. So.
Yeah, this is the first. This is our first meeting of the year. We took a break for the holidays.
Oh, that's always so smart because no one shows up.
Yep, exactly. That is exactly what happened.
I enjoyed your meeting very much, and I may want to come back again.
Fantastic. We'd love to have you.
Love to have you.
Well, and maybe I also want to help coach some of your participants into a winning position. So I was for our district, I was in the final humor speech contest this year, finalist for that, which was hilarious. So that was, I mean, I had a really ridiculous speech, but it was quite a lot of fun. So I'd really like to encourage everyone here, even if you're brand new, to enter the speech contest, because you've gotten up and you've given a speech and then you put it down and you never pick it up again. But the art of speaking is about giving a speech and then polishing it and refining it and getting feedback. And it is an art form by itself, and it will help you to learn how to write it right the first time. So I highly, highly encourage you, because the art of massaging a speech through several sessions is the amount of information that you get out of that is incredible. It's not replaced by anything else. So even though I don't care about competitions. They don't do anything for me. And I entered this last one only so I would go up the ranks and keep going and keep trying to figure out, how do I make it better? And I engaged people from all over to come in and listen to me and give me feedback. I sent them videos. So these are contests you really, for the international speech in particular, you really have to work at this, but it will pay off in spades for those willing to do that work. I just wanted to add that little advertisement.
Fantastic. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, maybe you're probably going to definitely hear from myself and Erica. I'm also the VP of this club. So it sounds like we'd love to have a workshop with you. That would be a fun meeting. Let's see, who's our other guest? No, I'm going to butcher your name. Nirmala. Oh, you're on mute.
My name is Nirmala. The emphasis is in the first syllable. Nirmala. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good meeting. It is very focused on product managers, and it's nice to see very focused meetings where everybody can learn, share, and also improve upon skills. Great to hear from Karen as well, who is a master and also an experienced Toastmaster, a contestant, finalist as well. Yet contests are a great way to become speakers. I'm not going to be contesting because I'm the division director, and really contests don't do much to me. I'm not a big fan of competition. I'm here to improve myself, and I compete with myself. But contests are a great way to become a better speaker, a better communicator. So I do encourage all of you to participate in the contest. Overall, great meeting. Yeah, I think you did very well on time. Most of the rules, you follow Toastmasters rules. There may be a bit of confusion as to timer, qualifications for table topics and speeches. In our club, we do give a 30-second grace period for all speeches, whether it's prepared speech or table topics or evaluation. So at one of the clubs where I was a member of, we voted for speakers, table topics, and evaluators, and everybody got a 30-second grace period before and after. So those are things you might want to visit and incorporate it into your functionaries' roles and responsibilities so they're aware. Other than that, I really have no other feedback. Great meeting. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you for that feedback. That is very helpful. All right. So I think that concludes all of the guests that we had today. Where am I at my agenda? All right. The last thing, I'm going to turn it over to our VPE, which also happens to be me. So sorry, you're stuck listening to me for a few more minutes. I actually have a couple of exciting things to tell you all today. The Women in Product Conference that we've talked so much about today on January 25th, which is maybe next week. I think it's next week. They are actually going to do a special kickoff call for anybody that's interested in doing, participating in the conference. And it's going to be this fun session where they have some speakers kind of talk about how to actually craft a good topic and how to pitch that topic as well. And then it'll be interactive. So you'll be able to bring your topic and actually get feedback from people before you submit it to the conference committee. So I think, yeah, Sarah, I see your hand raised. I know you posted something on Facebook about it already, and I'm gonna also bump your post and get that sign up form if anybody's interested in joining the Women in Product thing. But I'm gonna pass it to you. Do you want to add to that a little bit, Sarah?
Just a quick question. Would there be a conflict of interest if you do participate in the Women in Product Toastmasters, but that you also participate in the submission process and submit, not knowing what's going to happen?
Yeah, fantastic question. No, there's no conflict of interest. In fact, as somebody who did it last year, I highly encourage you all to do it. I would love to see multiple of our Toastmasters, and I think we all have the skills to actually do that. I mean, one day we might have the whole conference because we're so great at speaking and we have so many good topics that would be cool to see. So if you want to also submit to the Women in Product group, I highly encourage you to do that. In speaking to Rachel, like, she knows the quality of our Toastmasters and all the hard work that you all put in this club. So yeah, feel free to submit in both realms and use our club contest as a way to practice for that. And if you do get selected by the Women in Product Committee as well, feel free to let me know as the VP, and we can find time to make sure everyone's got time to practice their presentations and stuff before that conference. So wonderful question. Great question. So I will post that on our Facebook page, and Erica will probably send out an email too, just so it's easy for everyone to find. The next thing that I want to mention to you all is that we're in a new year. We all had a nice break. I'm taking submissions for speaking slots in 2022. So let's get you all signed up for speeches, because nothing's worse than me like signing a speech up for you. That doesn't sound fun. So feel free to pick an open date that we have for the year. Let's get you working through your pathways and on to the next thing. And then the last thing I have to mention is it's also a new year, and with a new year typically comes some open roles. So we do have some people in our club that are actually managers, and we do have some people in our club that are hiring on their teams. So this is something that Erica just sent out an email. Liz Barnum was one of our Toastmasters for a while. She actually won our competition last year. She is hiring for some product managers directly on her team at Facebook. So if anybody is interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me or Liz directly. Honestly, she'll also help coach you through their interview process. So even that alone, getting in at a FANG company, we all know how their interview processes are a little insane maybe, but a great learning experience. Feel free to take her up on that. I also know that we have, I personally I'm going to have roles open on my team very soon. So as soon as I personally have my roles open on my team, I will share that first and foremost with the club as well. But I encourage any of you, if you're hiring, like, what a better place to find some awesome rock star product managers than right here in our own club. So feel free to advertise that if you want and reach out to your fellow club members and get to know them more. And with that, I usually at this time share out the roles for the next meeting, but I'll be honest, I had COVID this week, so I actually didn't do it. I'm a little behind schedule. So I will get that out to everybody as soon as possible. So yeah, I will let you know. I am looking for a Toastmaster. If anybody wants to volunteer to be the Toastmaster next week, we are going to do a session around product road mapping. I would love you to volunteer to be the Toastmaster. If not, then I'm going to pick somebody. And as I mentioned before, picking somebody is not nearly as fun as you just tell me you'd love to do it anyways. And if you do it now, you probably won't get picked to do it later in the year, unless you want to, of
I
course.
may need some hand holding, Lori. I never been a
Oh,
Toastmaster.
that is totally fine. You want to be, if you want to be the Toastmaster, I'm happy to walk you through it. I've
Okay.
actually done it enough. We got some cheat sheets, so we can send a little cheat sheet guide over to you. You'll do great.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Teresa's going to be our Toastmaster next meeting. All right. Thank you. Yeah. And with that, that's all I got today. So we're actually going to give you 2 minutes back in your life. Start the year off the right way.
Happy New Year. Yeah, this is our
Happy
first
New Year.
meeting. Yeah. I didn't realize that
Yeah,
this was our first meeting in 2022.
it was. So Shruti, you want to wrap us up and get us out of here?
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, everyone. This was such a great session and a great start to the year. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and adjourn the session for today.